I've seen a fair amount of Mega Man X games that get announced. Most of them get discontinued for one reason or another, but none have been anticipated as much as Mega Man X Corrupted. If you look at the most recent videos of this game, it looks like a masterpiece. However, being able to play the game is a different story, because as long as this has been in development, it still hasn't had a release date, and at this point, I don't think it ever will. I have personally been watching the development for this game for 15, maybe 16 years. I watched the updates, completely forget about the project, remember it years later, check back in, and then forget about it all over again. And through that whole time, this thing still hasn't been released. By the time the first real public trailers and technical tests for Corrupted started gaining traction 17 years ago, it was clear that the game would be great back then. But think about that. This game is old enough to drive, go to prom, and graduate high school, and it's still not out yet. Back in the early 2010s, the Mega Man X series was already in a weird spot. Fans didn't like the direction of X7, X8 was better but it still felt off, the jump to 3D models was substandard, and the response movement of the classic titles was lost. And for a long time, Corrupted looked like the exact answer we were looking for. The early hype wasn't based on a bunch of flashiness, it was based on mechanics. They weren't just ripping standard levels, they were building an interconnected world, a Metroidvania style map. You could watch those early clips 17 years ago and see things we'd never seen in a Mega Man game. An elaborate skill tree, new moves and concepts. It felt polished and like it respected the source material while trying to do something new. Then, even more polish kept coming. Did you see that intro stage for X? That looked amazing. And the more you see, the more you think it's worth the wait. That's why the community rallied behind it. I doubt anyone that's a Mega Man X fan wasn't at least a little interested in this game. But it's not like it was always good times, for lack of a better phrase. I remember on their Facebook page, they had a somewhat hostile rule pinned up. The game wasn't getting released until it was 100% complete, and if you asked about the progress, you'd get immediately banned. Why? You're building a fan project for a community, but you're treating them like an annoyance. I don't see why you wouldn't let people know the status of the game if you're not going to release any demos. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that people keep asking the same question is going to get annoying. I understand that fully, but once again, these are people that, you kind of let into your space, to be honest. So you kind of got to take the good with the bad. Since then, there have been plenty of long waiting periods between updates. It's not just the silence that's tedious, it's the evolution of the project itself. At the start, they were using official Capcom assets, but then they pivoted. They started moving to custom sprites, then built a custom soundtrack, then shifted engines entirely, moving from Flash to HTML5. And don't get me wrong, wanting to avoid a DMCA takedown from Capcom is smart. But let's be honest, that shift could have also been a way to keep moving the goalposts. Every time they replaced an asset, they had to rebalance the game. They're stuck in a cycle of self-improvement. Certain things they already had planned. They added the 5 difficulty modes, all the way from C-Class to Maverick mode, where bosses execute desperation attacks. They coded a dual buster system into one of the armor sets. Different ride armors, different armor sets. They built the Final 4 system, where they didn't just stop at standard boss fights. Once you beat 4 Mavericks, the world will change. Example, if Sparkling Scorpio is still alive, the lights will go out across the indoor stages globally. If Warp Vulpix is still active, random wormholes will open up to elite enemies on your head anywhere on the map. Then they added new things. Some things couldn't be avoided, like the engine switch. Adobe killed Flash at the end of 2020, which essentially forced everybody to move their game from Flash to something else. But then you have additions like Cynthia and Axel. They didn't just stop at giving us X and Zero. They created completely original hunter-based navigator named Cynthia, and instead of leaving her in the text boxes, they made her a third fully playable character who unlocks after you beat the game, complete with her own unique weapon modifications. But then you have Axel. For years, the game's FAQ states that Axel will not take place in this game. The timeline is right after X5. Therefore, anything after that is not going to be part of the game. And then what happens? We get a random update revealing Axel as a playable character with multi-directional aiming and rapid fire mechanics. It's cool, but what happened to finishing the game before adding new characters? If Axel is now playable, that means the story has also shifted as well. How much time do you think they added by adding him and his features and changing the story around to include him in the cutscenes? It's not a small amount. All of this time in Limbo isn't just pure feature creep though. Life happens. JKB admitted at least once to taking a month off just to take a vacation. I seriously doubt that was the only time he has taken a break in 17 years. And hey, fair enough. Everybody needs a break, especially when you're working on a passion project on top of normal day-to-day life. But when you add up the months of breaks year after year alongside massive over-engineering, the timeline just blows out completely. Now, if you go into the subreddits and comment sections, you'll see people throwing around accusations. They claim the whole thing is a scam, that the developer is intentionally dragging it out to farm donation money. I don't know about that. From what I've seen, JKB doesn't have a Patreon or a Kickstarter or even YouTube memberships. There's no way to back this game unless he's taking money privately, which I also doubt because somebody would have made a complaint by now. But that also could be worse because there is no financial backers, there's zero accountability. There's no publisher demanding a build, no community of investors holding a deadline. It's a hobby with zero pressure to ever reach a finish line. I'm also surprised that no one who helped out with the game has said anything either. This isn't a one-man job. You have people like Dominique Nidmark composing the entire original soundtrack. Then you have specific pixel artists designing custom 16-bit animations. Not one former contributor seemed to have stepped forward to say anything about how long the game is taking. Then again, maybe they played the game already, so they're good. Maybe there's a small circle of developers who have full access to a complete build on their hard drives right now, and they're just content with keeping it private. Who knows? If the size of the game is the real bottleneck, there's an obvious solution right in front of them. Open it up for public testing. When a project grows this big, a tiny development team cannot find every crash, breakable wall, or physics glitch on their own. The community has been ready and willing to help for close to 2 decades. If they dropped an early beta or test build, thousands of dedicated fans would gladly jump in to do the heavy lifting, cataloging bugs, stress testing the engine, and giving the developers the exact data they need to actually cross the finish line. Even the biggest AAA studios in the world don't try to release massive games without a safety net. Companies like Capcom, EA, and Activision constantly run into public alphas, closed betas, and early access periods. They do this because they know that putting a build into the hands of real players is the only way to iron out the kinks at scale. There is no shame in releasing an unfinished version for the sake of optimization. If giant corporations with hundreds of millions of dollars and massive full-time QA departments still rely on public betas to finish their games, a spare time fan project definitely shouldn't be too proud to do the same. Leaning on the community wouldn't just speed up development, it would finally give the people who have been waiting for 17 years a chance to help bring this vision to life. Especially when you're working for free. I mean, they're pouring thousands of hours into a project with no known payout. Burnout is a very real threat. I don't know why the creators don't lean into their YouTube channels more to offset that pressure. Look at an example like Yandere Development. At one point, he was making bi-weekly update videos explicitly mapping out exactly what he had progressed in the game. That's a good idea. Just that, not the other stuff he was doing. Even if you don't do it every 2 weeks, just a video once a month would completely shift the momentum. A quick 5-minute video saying, hey, this is what we completed this month and here is what we're working on next, keeps the algorithm fed and keeps the audience locked in. Instead of putting out 1 trailer every 6 months, you could put out 2 trailers every 6 months. The math, is simple. The more videos you have out there, the more you can attract people to your channel. and then the more ad revenue you can generate to keep the project sustainable. Another brilliant way to monetize without worrying about a DMCA is having links to other original commercial games you've created. Cat Yard Games, the maker behind Viral Nightmare, has done this. On every single video they upload, right below the download link to the current version of Viral Nightmare, they plug a link to their original Steam game. It's a nice way to leverage the massive traffic from a popular fan game to promote your own original monetized content to help make extra money for your troubles. It's a blueprint to these long-term development teams they should really start adopting. To be clear, I'm not trying to badmouth JKB or take shots at the development team. Building something of this technical scale takes an absurd amount of dedication, and doing it for free is even crazier. They don't technically owe us a thing. JKB hasn't taken any public money, so he's not legally or financially bound to deliver a product to a single backer. If he wants to never release this, that's his business. But at the same time, though, I think we are owed at least an explanation, because he did at one point say this game was going to be released to the public. That promise is the entire reason that the project has a following. Obviously, this thing wouldn't be nowhere near as big if we were told, hey, I made this game, but y'all won't be able to get to play it. Feels like a rug being pulled from under you. Looking at the state of Mega Man X Corrupted today feels bleak. Right now, there is nothing to go on at this point. If you dig back through their social media, you'll find a Twitter post from 2019 where he explicitly states that the game was almost complete. That post was almost 7 years ago. So how do you stay almost complete for the better part of a decade? If you look at their official YouTube or Facebook pages, they scrubbed any mention of even releasing the game. But if you dig around, the only place that actually keeps the dream alive is the fan-run wiki page. Through all the code changes and media blackouts, the wiki still lists the official release as TBA, to be announced. I don't know who's been keeping that wiki page updated all these years, but they have a little more faith of it than I do. Because if you look at their main website, jkbgames.com, it's just blank, nothing. A white page. And if you go track down the old Twitch channel to see what they've been coding on Saturdays, that stopped 4 years ago. They have an outdated FAQ that still says that Axel will not be playable. He is. And the resolution is 4:3. It's widescreen now. So when you put all of that together, I mean, what other conclusion are you supposed to make? Once again, the work is impressive, amazing, but I feel like this is what happens when a developer loses the ability to say good enough. There's a point where a project stops becoming a passion project and starts becoming an anchor. It holds you back from other things you could be doing. If you wait for perfection, it's not gonna come. When a developer completely stops responding to their own community and scrubs their public presence, that's a signal that either they've moved on or something else has happened. You got people out there in the forums still debating whether it's 80% done or if it's ever coming out. Truth is, I don't even think it matters, because if a game disappears from the internet and the developer goes dark, the game is dead whether they finish it or not. If it dropped tomorrow, let's say, it'd probably be looked at as one of the greatest fan games ever. Maybe. I mean, there are other games out there also in development, nowhere near as long, by the way, that could give this a run for its money. Viral Nightmare has already had 2 patches released, and Regenesis is said to be released sometime this year. Another game, Reminiscence, is trying to build an action RPG skill tree structure on top of the classic 16-bit swapping mechanics. There have been other Mega Man fan hacks and fan games that have been announced and released in the same time span. I mean, of course there was, it's been 17 years. But you have Mega Man X8 D-Make, you have Mega Man Unlimited and Street Fighter X Mega Man. Fully polished projects that have been coded from scratch, balanced, and pushed out to the public, while Corrupted has remained stuck in the exact same loop. There's also another project that has been drawn out its own timeline, Mega Man X Maverick Wars. From what I've seen, this has been in development for 9 years, but they did release a new video last year, just like Corrupted did, so it is still alive. The community is practically keeping the entire X series on life support with these concepts, but they all run into the same brutal reality. When a project is fueled purely by spare time passion, the clock just ticks away. Some will be able to complete their project, but most won't. Anyway, what do you think of this game? Do you think it will come out? Let me know in the comments below. And the last thing I want to say, I just want to reiterate, I do not have any ill will against JKB Games or anybody in development team. As far as toxic comments they get, I think that's a little much. We don't know what reason it is that they have taken so long for things to come out. It could be literally anything. Good, bad, who knows? Some people have given very toxic comments. Some people have given toxic comments, but in a positive way. Like, they don't give them any accountability at all. Like, it's a little bit too much of both. Like, if you're able to wait for this game, great. But I think expecting somebody should have an update within a reasonable amount of time is reasonable. I mean, if you still want people to be interested in your game, you gotta give them something. But anyway, that's it. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. X7 coming out soon, so be ready for that. And I'll see y'all in the next one.